Supposing a man does reach out to someone, because I've heard people complain that I jumped on a couple of them lives as well, one of them, and I don't want to put everybody in the same. I can't tell people's intentions. I told the brother that I respect that you offer an alternative perspective most of the time, fam, and that's specifically the reason I come and check for man. You hear me?
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's lacking, fam. Like I said, I'm anti this yes man thing. I want to like forget your emotions. If you done something wrong, then you done something wrong. We need to address that so we can step forward with the right foot next time. You hear me? That's my thing. Forget about how it may look and how it makes you feel. We have to learn how to deal with our emotions and suppress those feelings. You get me? But
you just said it. So I can offer an alternative. I can offer an alternative perspective.
Yeah.
But if I say it in an emotive way, then am I really asking this? And I say it in a disrespectful emotive way. Am I really expecting a composed response?
Yeah.
So when I talk about protocols, we know what we're talking about because we're men. So
before I go, let me just finish my point.
Please.
I was saying like boom. Because man was saying to me like man's page man one away behind the scenes over and over again, and it's the same thing, you hear me? Like, and not just in regards to respect, but I've heard the similar type of sentiments in regards to hard-ass people. Not that I'm calling respect hard-ass, me and him have our back and forth, you hear me? But
respect, I would tell you as I love you as my brother, he is hard-ass, and he knows because I say it to his face. But these are things as men.
So then you go and speak to a man behind the scenes, and the man keeps up the same behaviour. What you do then? What do you do then?
I would call him for a public conversation.
Okay.
And we've done these things in terms of having public debates, because what we're doing then is we're actually seeking to gain something virtuous out of it.
Yeah.
Because I can attack anybody, but I don't have any moral plinth that makes me any more virtuous than any other man.
Yeah.
Because we're all flawed in some area.
Most definitely.
So now, is this man gonna go and seek the flaws in my particular area?
Yeah.
Because I don't have the protocols of respect to actually deal with them directly? See, none of us are actually in a position to be calling each other out, because there's some area of our life where we're lacking. I promise you, all of us, we're all lacking somewhere. Yeah. And if I say something to my brother and it's truly in love, I don't need to attack him. Do you understand what I'm saying? So mine is about protocols. It's not about the personal attacks. It's not about attacking the people that I'm actually speaking about in terms of those lives. It's about protocols, because our protocols have to start involving respect. They have to become formal at some stage, because there's a stage within advocacy where you can't keep talking about, oh, we don't have a black print for it, because we do. We've got plenty of black prints. There are things that happen behind the scenes all the time that work, that dissipate negative energies on a regular basis. There are things that dissolve arms on a regular basis. So if you say, I'm not aware, that's fine. But then if you're not aware, that makes you unqualified in a particular area. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because there's levels to everything. And if you are able to dissipate an arms, it's because you're qualified and you're aware. Now, if you're only able to escalate that because you take it public and then it becomes virtue signaling, then there's no upside of that. And as far as I'm concerned, whatever we do in terms of actions, it's either going to be a net win or a net loss for the community. And when I say the community, there are people who are going to follow you because you create followers the minute you become a broadcaster, right?
Okay.
So as much as we have to hold respect to account in terms of security protocols, and there were security protocols that were lacking in terms of discipline, because the first thing you're going to have is stewards, right? And stewards hold discipline, but that means they have to have discipline in the first place. So that's holding people to account, but you can do that in a respectful framework. This thing should never be about personal attacks on men, and mine is to take the personal out of it.
Yeah, I'm with that as well, still. I'm with that, but like I said, it's not always easy to distinguish if a man's attacking a man personally or if a man's expressing his opinion that might be a valid opinion, but only because he don't like man, rather than he's trying to like patch man up, you get me?
So here's another thing. What I've seen in our community as well is sometimes when people feel things for a long time, it does come out emotionally. And that's how people might feel about somebody. And that in and of itself becomes personal, because it is personal. It's how you personally feel about them. Let me say something. You see, if I don't have any kind of emotional feeling about a man, he's just there, there's no emotion in it.
Yeah.
As I'm going to deliver my critique of the man or what he's done, there's zero emotion involved. It's clinical. So understanding the nuances of human behavior, I know when it's personal. And I don't think we should pretend when it's not, because this is another critique of our community that we have to get over. We've got to get over the personal and just deal with what has happened. There's nothing so big that has happened between, as far as I'm concerned, any of the men in our community where you can't have a coffee unless you're dealing with mental illness. When somebody is mentally ill, you're dealing with a different type of beast, and that has to hold a corner over there because they can't manage themselves. But other than that, and those characters do come to the fore and represent themselves as advocates as well. People who've been in a vulnerable people's space, people who've been housed as vulnerable, who present themselves just like any broken clock. If you pass it at 6 o'clock, it's right. But you go and check that in an hour's time and see where it is. So mine is, this is not for ordinary people, it's for aliens. I had this conversation with one of my brothers yesterday. It's not for ordinary people. If you're not an alien and if you're not developing yourself beyond what people think about you, this isn't for you. And when I say you develop yourself beyond what people think about you, and I mean really not giving a russ, that comes down to you not seeking the validation from people for entertainment purposes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We have to extrapolate our emotions from this thing. You have to have a cremation of care. And that cremation of care is very sobering. And it takes you out of that place where it's about having a moral plinth to hold people accountable. And it's more about wanting to advance who that man is by calling him out on what he does. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's the point that I'm making.